following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and a very good morning to all News 9 viewers. I'm Neha Bhan. Let's take a look at some of the top national and international stories of this hour. We begin with the Israel-Hamas war, which has entered 46th day. Now, there's no end to the fighting in sight. Israel is now looking to expand its operations into southern Gaza, while a deal to release the hostages still seems far away. Let's take a look at the developments from the war front right on your screens. Now, military operations at the Indonesia hospital in complete compliance with the international law. That's what the foreign policy advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has stated. 100 patients have been evacuated from the Indonesian hospital. A Gaza health official has stated 28 newborn babies have been transferred to Egypt from Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. Unparalleled and unprecedented. That's what the United Nations Secretary General has said on the deaths in Gaza, on the death toll in Gaza. Meanwhile, WHO official Michael Ryan has warned of a possible breakout of epidemics in Gaza. Deal is quote-unquote near to secure release of hostages held in Gaza. That's a big statement there coming in by United States President Joe Biden. Red Cross president, meanwhile, has met Hamas leader in Qatar. Yemen's Houthis have released another video of Red Sea hijacking of a cargo ship. Fighting also continues across the Israel-Lebanon border. Talking about the death toll now, over 13,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war so far. That's according to the Gaza Health Ministry. In the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, President Joe Biden has signaled progress in negotiations for the release of approximately 240 hostages. The discussions, mediated by Qatar, began after a deadly attack by Hamas, marking a tragic day in Israel's history. While the proposed deal involves exchanging 50 hostages for a free 3-day ceasefire facilitating increased emergency aid to reach Gaza's civilians, the White House and Israeli officials initially denied the existence of a finalized agreement. However, they have acknowledged progress in the talks. The deal there carries significant stakes, with relatives of the hostages urging Israeli lawmakers to avoid escalating tensions. Concerns revolve around discussions regarding capital punishment for captured Palestinian terrorists, which could jeopardize the safety of the captives. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with his war cabinet and the relatives of the hostages held by Hamas during the October 7 attack. The meeting, held at the Kriya military base in Tel Aviv, faced disruptions as some family members were denied entry. Following the meeting with Israel's war cabinet, family members of some hostages expressed being very disappointed. Now, that's in fact a big statement coming in there by Joe Biden. He has signaled progress in negotiations for the release of approximately 240 hostages. These hostages were taken in by Hamas on the 7th of October. That's when the terrorist organization launched a deadly attack against southern Israel, killing about 1,400 people and taking about 240 people, Israelis, as hostages. Now the discussions, mediated by Qatar, began after a deadly attack by Hamas, marking a tragic day in Israel's history.
So today, I think Secretary Austin is in Kyiv to meet with Ukraine's leaders. I know this is of great interest to all of you. I just want to let you know we're still working this hour by hour. I do not have an update for you on the hostage deal that we're trying to negotiate. But as you heard the Deputy National Security Advisor say yesterday, we believe we're closer than we've ever been. So we're hopeful. But there's still work to be done, and nothing is done until it's all done. So we're going to keep working on this. We're also working to increase the flow of life-saving humanitarian assistance, food, water, medicine. We're calling for respecting the international law in terms of minimizing the loss of innocent lives. And of course, we're continuing to advocate for humanitarian pauses so that people can get out of harm's way and that aid and assistance can get in. Over the last couple of days, the 18th and the 19th of November, almost 100 trucks carrying humanitarian aid were able to enter Gaza. That brings the total to over 1,260. And then following Israel's announcement that it's allowing fuel now into Gaza to support non-governmental organizations at our strong request, we are now tracking that 6 trucks have crossed down into Gaza with approximately 18,000 gallons of fuel. That will help support food distribution and it will help generators for the hospital so that they can keep working. The total number of U.S. citizens that we've been able to move out of Gaza through that Rafah crossing is now up to 800. We're continuing to work that every day as well.
Intense fighting was reported from around northern Gaza's Indonesia hospital on Monday. The Israeli tanks surrounded the hospital after artillery fire claimed the lives of at least 12 Palestinians in the complex. Now, according to reports, a shell struck the second floor of the hospital, killing at least 12 people. The hospital's director, Dr. Marwan Al-Sultan, told the BBC that the post-operative care department was hit and troops were only about 20 meters away. The Israeli forces said that the target was the terrorists who had opened fire at them from within the hospital. Meanwhile, World Health Organization chief has stated that he was appalled. WHO is appalled by an attack on the Indonesian hospital in Gaza, reportedly resulting in 12 deaths, including patients, and tens of injuries, including critical and life-threatening ones. Health workers and civilians should never have to be exposed to such horror, and especially while inside a hospital. Meanwhile, Ophir Flak, foreign policy advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has stated that Israelis firing into the Indonesian hospital in northern Gaza was in complete compliance with international law. There are around 700 people, including medical staff and injured people, present inside the hospital. That is also according to reports. Now, a field hospital sent by Jordan enters the Gaza Strip, the first since the war between Israel and the territory's rulers Hamas erupted on the 7th of October. The Jordanian field hospital has entered the Gaza Strip with 40 trucks loaded with equipment, along with 180 personnel consisting of doctors, nurses and administrators. The containers arrived in Gaza through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. A UAE delegation is currently preparing to establish another medical facility. 40 trucks with medical equipments were dispatched. 180 personnel, including doctors and nurses, also arriving in Gaza to assist those in dire need. Leaders from BRICS nations are slated to convene an emergency video conference on the 21st of November, tackling the pressing Middle East situation with a specific focus on the Gaza Strip. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to join the discussions as South Africa takes charge of the rotating BRICS presidency. The statement reveals that leaders from the original BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India and China, will gather under South Africa's presidency for the pivotal virtual meeting. Additionally, leaders from the newly included BRICS nations, Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran and the United Arab Emirates have received invitations. Following an opening address by President Ramaphosa, representatives from BRICS and the invited states will present statements shedding light on the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Notably, Chinese President Xi Jinping has accepted an invitation from the president to partake in this extraordinary virtual summit on the Palestinian-Israeli issue. President Xi will deliver crucial remarks from Beijing. Stay tuned for further updates on this developing story. My colleague Neha Khanna spoke to Israeli government spokesperson Eylon Levy about the current crisis in Israel. Now, during the interview, Levy had to run for a cover into a bomb shelter amid rocket sirens. Take a look at the excerpts from the interview, which will be aired later in the day.
Joining me now on News 9 Live is a special guest from Israel. I am now joined for this exclusive conversation by Eylon Levy, the spokesperson for the Israeli government. Mr. Levy, thank you so much for joining us here on News 9
Thank you
Live.
for having me on the show, Neha.
Lovely to have you at what is obviously an incredibly busy and challenging time for you and your country. Let's begin by talking about the latest videos that have been released by the Israeli Defense Forces. The Israeli army says the video footage shows the first solid evidence of a sophisticated Hamas tunnel network underneath Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. There is a lot of curiosity about these tunnels. Could you share with us some details of what exactly has been found in these tunnels?
Yeah, this is really shocking. Everyone knows that under international law, hospitals must be protected. You're not allowed to use them for military purposes. But Hamas has a deliberate strategy of using hospitals and civilians as human shields and hiding behind them. Now, for the last month, we've been warning that the Shifa hospital in Gaza was in fact Hamas's main headquarters, that they were hiding in the basement, hiding in the tunnels under that hospital. And now the evidence is plain for all to see. Yesterday, the IDF released a video showing a tunnel shaft 10 meters deep. There's a spiral staircase. And at the bottom of the staircase is a 55-meter long tunnel. And at the end of that tunnel is something you don't find in most hospitals. It's a blast door with a firing hole in it. Hamas has, in complete violation of international law and morality, been hiding underneath hospitals, been using ambulances to transport its terrorists. We have a rocket siren. I have to go, I'm afraid.
Mr. Levy, we're relieved to have you back. Are you safe? Is your entire team safe? What just happened there?
Yes, this is the third time I've had to interrupt a news interview because of a missile attack on Tel Aviv. And this time we just had a massive barrage at the whole of central Israel that forced 2 million people to run into their rocket shelters. When terrorists from the Gaza Strip fire rockets at Israel, we in Tel Aviv have a minute and a half to run for safety. We all hear a rocket siren and you have to get into an underground rocket shelter if you can. If you don't have an underground rocket shelter, you need to stand in the stairwell. And if it catches you outside, you have to lie on the ground with your hands above your head. Since the beginning of the war with Hamas on October 7th, with the massacre, we've had over 10,000 rockets that have been fired at Israeli towns at all hours. Unfortunately, we're used to this. But of course, every time that there is a rocket attack like that, it scares a lot of people. Sometimes we're not able to shoot down those rockets and they end up hitting a building and even causing loss of life and killing people. And it's a reminder, it's a reminder of one of the reasons why in this war we have to destroy Hamas. We have to remove Hamas from power, because it wasn't just the October 7th massacre. It wasn't just that brutal, sadistic massacre of 1,200 people on October 7th. It has been nearly 20 years that Hamas has been terrorizing the people of Israel with rocket fire whenever they want, pressing a button and sending millions of Israelis into rocket shelter. And it's that reign of terror that we're going to end.
Well, that has got to be scary, and we're glad that you're safe. 10,000 rockets have been fired at Tel Aviv since the 7th of October. Typically,
at the whole of Israel from Gaza.
At all of Israel. Typically, how often does this happen in a single day when you have to run into a bomb shelter?
There have been days where we've had to run a few times into bomb shelters. At the moment, because the Israeli army has taken over Gaza City, we've pushed the Palestinian terrorists south in the Gaza Strip, and that means that most of their 75-kilometer rockets, Tel Aviv is no longer in range. But we know that they've spent years preparing for this war, with so much Iranian money that has been poured into Hamas's war machine instead of civilian needs inside Gaza. So they're prepared and they have very long-range rockets that can be fired at us at any hour they want. And that's what we're determined to end, so that they can terrorize our people no longer. In every round of conflict with Hamas, Israel says there is no country in the world that would tolerate terrorists being able to fire rockets at its cities, and every conflict ends with a ceasefire, and then 6 months later, a year later, Hamas starts shooting rockets. No, enough is enough. This time it ends. This time the war will end with Hamas and the Gaza Strip no longer able to pose a security threat to the people of Israel.
Displaced Palestinians in Khan Yunis were busy securing tents and cooking on outdoor wood stoves. Palestinians residing in the Jabalia refugee camp shared how last 2 days were especially tough for them. The harsh weather with wind and rain caused tents to collapse, leaving people soaked. In Khan Yunis, Palestinian children found a moment of relief from the horrors of the Gaza war in a playground. The sounds of laughter and delight filled the air as the youngsters played on swings and slides. However, the grim reality of the ongoing conflict is never far away. The toll on children is staggering, with nearly 5,000 young lives lost out of the 12,300 Palestinians killed since October 7. In fact, the death toll has now increased. It's been over 13,000 Palestinians who have been killed since the October 7 attack, according to Gaza's health ministry. Palestinians in the besieged strip are facing dire conditions, reporting shortages of basic supplies like diapers, baby formula and food. Hundreds of thousands, including displaced children, moving from northern Gaza to the south seek shelter in UN schools but have limited access to essential needs. The Israeli military shared a video claiming to depict strikes on buildings in Lebanon associated with the Hezbollah terrorist group. The Israeli army stated on their official Telegram account that they conducted a series of attacks using fighter jets, military tanks and a helicopter targeting infrastructure believed to be operated by the Iran-backed terrorist group. Now switching our focus, in a significant development, authorities are tirelessly working to rescue the 41 workers trapped inside the partially collapsed tunnel in Uttarkashi. A 6-inch pipe has been successfully installed into the debris, enabling the provision of solid food and improving communication with the trapped workers. Here's the latest on the rescue operations. Now, workers have been trapped in the tunnel for 170 hours and the rescue operation is expected to take an additional 4 to 5 days. To facilitate this operation, a 6-inch pipe has been successfully installed in the debris, serving the dual purpose of providing food to the trapped workers and improving communication with them. The Defense Research and Development Organization has dispatched 2 robots weighing 20 kgs and 50 kg respectively to aid in the rescue efforts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized the importance of maintaining high morale among the trapped workers, recognizing the psychological aspect of the situation. Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami has expressed a commitment to evacuate all trapped workers on a war footing, underlining the urgency and intensity of the rescue efforts. Now, the Indian Air Force employed C-17 and C-130J Super Hercules transport aircraft for the transportation of critical equipment to the site. Now, the rescue operations involve multiple strategies. The National Highways and Infrastructure Development Corporation is resuming horizontal boring from the Silkyara end using an auger boring machine to rescue workers. RVNL also has begun vertical pipeline work for the essential supply. ONGC has started initial vertical drilling from Barkot end. NHIDCL will also continue Silkyara drilling with safety measures. THDC will work on micro tunneling from Barkot. These are some of the rescue operations In fact, these are some of the strategies that are involved in the rescue operations. Construction of a 480-meter rescue tunnel from the Barkot and by Tehri Hydro Development Corporation is underway. We're getting some live visuals from Uttarkashi. Let's listen in.
हाँ कोई बात नहीं ले जाओ।
सुबह आवाज आ रही है।
खोल रहा है ये वाला लो, ये वो हमारा पैकेट मीटर।
कैमरे की स्क्रीन को थोड़ा आप साफ कर लो,
रुमाल से, कपड़े से,
किसी रुमाल या कपड़े से कैमरे को साफ कर लो।
और एक करके साफ कम समझा है।
देखो फसला से आवाज जा रही है, स्पीकर से, ये लाउड स्पीकर से अच्छी आवाज जा रही है।
सभी को एक एक करके कैमरे पे दिखाओ और कैमरे पे पता चल जाना चाहिए हम आपको यहाँ से देख रहे हैं।
20 साल ये कौन है?
ये विश्वजीत है,
उसके बगल वाला
आई थिंक अभी सर खाना भेजना जरूरी है हमें,
वो भी आएगा,
है ना। अभी हम क्या करते हैं, पानी उनको बोलो, हम लोग अभी ये पाइप को साफ करेंगे थोड़ी देर बाद, पानी के साथ और ब्लोअर के साथ,
एक बार ये तो कैमरे के बाहर
पानी और कंप्रेसर के साथ साफ करेंगे हम पाइप को, बता दें उनको।
अब वापस भेजने बोलो उसको वापस।
हम थोड़ी देर में पानी से पाइप को साफ करेंगे। आप लोग कैमरे को वापस पाइप में रखे रखते, हम कैमरा वापस निकाल रहे हैं।
और उसके बाद पानी छोड़ेंगे उसमें, कंप्रेसर
कैमरा वापस आने के बाद पानी छोड़ेंगे।
कंप्रेसर से पीछे हट जाए,
कंप्रेसर से आप लोग पीछे हट जाए।
ये सुशील हाइड्रो ऑपरेटर,
कैमरा ऊपर पाइप में रख के हम इसको वापस ले रहे हैं।
ये कौन है?
Right on your screens, live visuals from Uttarkashi. This is for the first time in 10 days that the authorities have managed to, in fact, see what exactly has been happening inside the tunnel and also speak to these trapped workers. 41 workers have been trapped inside the partially collapsed tunnel in Uttarkashi. It's been about 170 hours. And now these are the visuals. These are the workers who have been trapped inside this tunnel for about 10 days now. And right on your screens, that is the visual from inside the tunnel. These, in fact, people, trapped workers, have been complaining of nausea, vomiting. Among other things, the medical experts have also said that the respiratory issues continue to persist. One of the workers there also had a red eye. These people have barely slept. They've been given food and oxygen. Thankfully, they're okay so far. The authorities have also stated that they are going to safely evacuate them and the operation will be conducted on war footing. Meanwhile, these are for the first time that in 10 days that we're getting to witness these visuals and we're getting to see these trapped workers. Now, the Defence Research and Development Organization has dispatched 2 robots weighing 20 kg and 50 kg to aid in the rescue efforts. These robots are designed to navigate on the ground, but concerns have been raised due to the loose ground in the area. Additional machinery is expected to arrive within the next day or two. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also spoke with Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami over the phone to assess the ongoing rescue operation. And the Prime Minister has assured that necessary rescue equipment and resources are being provided by the centre through mutual coordination between central and state agencies. He expressed hope for the safe evacuation of the trapped workers. International tunnelling expert Arnold Dix also reached Silkara tunnel site and expressed confidence in the ongoing rescue efforts.
President of the International Tunnelling and Underground Space Association and all of our members all around the world are supporting here. I'm supporting here. We're going to get those men out. What I've seen, seriously, what I've seen, there are great works being done. This is going to happen, and look, we're on it, and that's what we're here, and there's a whole team of us here, and we're going to find a solution, and we're going to get them out.
And what's your observation, sir? You visited just inside of tunnel.
Yeah, even since yesterday, a lot of work has been done, and it's really important that not only are the men rescued, but also the men that are rescuing are safe.
And you are going to top height of tunnel, sir?
Yeah, going there now to have a look. Yeah.
So how many members along with you?
So we have, oh gosh, I can't even estimate. We've got people, the whole world is assisting.
You are discussing with the government of India?
Yes, the whole world is helping, and the team here are fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The real experts on this geology here are here. They're here in the Himalayas.
Rescue operation will be a start from?
I can't comment on the rescue operation. All I can tell you is the plans are looking fantastic.
So what is the situation inside of tunnel?
The tunnel's good. Yeah, tunnel's good. The work's going on, and it's very systematic. The men are all doing a fantastic job. I've seen where the food and the medication and the air and everything is being put through. The men who are doing that are safe. Everything's okay.
And what's your opinion about vertical drilling from the top height of tunnel?
We're going to have a look. Let us go have a look. I can talk to you about that later.
Well, for the first time in about 10 days, the authorities were able to see the condition that these trapped workers have been living in for the past 10 days right on your screens. Let's take a relook.
हम लोग को देखा नहीं सर आगे आगे करना है सर आगे कीजिए आपके केजी केबल को हाँ
सभी को कैमरा उठाने के बाद दिखा दे सभी को जितने भागा अंदर है सभी को दिखाएं कैमरा धीरे धीरे नीचे की तरफ सारे लोग ठीक है तो कैमरे में अपने आप को दिखाएं हाथ खड़ा करें अच्छे से मुस्कुराएं हम तुम्हारे पास जल्दी पहुंचेंगे घबराए नहीं हाँ हो रहा है कैमरे को पास से धीरे धीरे बाहर निकाले और सभी को दिखाएं सबा आगे हम लोग को देखा नहीं सर आगे आगे करना है सर आगे कीजिए आपके केजी केबल को हाँ सभी को कैमरा उठाने के बाद दिखा दे सभी को जितने भागा अंदर है सभी को दिखाएं कैमरा धीरे धीरे नीचे की तरफ सारे लोग ठीक है तो कैमरे में अपने आप को दिखाएं हाथ खड़ा करें अच्छे से मुस्कुराएं हम तुम्हारे पास जल्दी पहुंचेंगे घबराए नहीं हाँ हो रहा है कैमरे को पास से धीरे धीरे बाहर निकाले और सभी को दिखाएं सबा आगे हम लोग को देखा नहीं सर आगे आगे करना है सर आगे कीजिए आपके केजी केबल को हाँ सभी को कैमरा उठाने के बाद दिखा दे सभी को जितने भागा अंदर है सभी को दिखाएं
These are the first visuals of workers trapped in the Uttarkashi tunnel for 170 hours. The authorities are using the endoscopy camera and assuring the workers that they do not have to worry and that they will be rescued as soon as possible. 10 days into the rescue efforts, workers trapped in this particular tunnel in Uttarkashi were seen for the first time early this morning as an endoscopy camera was inserted through a pipe to capture the visuals. Moving on now, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak was quoted as saying the government should just let people die, quote unquote, during the COVID-19 pandemic rather than impose a second national lockdown. The inquiry into how Britain handled the crisis observed. Listen in.
Rishi Sunak reportedly said the government should, quote, just let people die during the COVID-19 pandemic rather than impose a second lockdown. That's according to Patrick Vallance, who testified on Monday as part of an inquiry into how Britain handled the crisis. Vallance was the government's chief scientific advisor during the pandemic. He made a note in his diary on October 25, 2020, about a meeting involving then Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Sunak, who was finance minister. The diary entry recorded how Dominic Cummings, Johnson's most senior advisor at the time, relayed to Vallance what he said he heard at the meeting. Vallance quoted Cummings in his diary as saying, quote, "Rishi thinks just let people die and that's okay. This all feels like a complete lack of leadership." A spokesperson for Sunak said the Prime Minister would set out his position when he gives evidence to the inquiry. Previous evidence has shown Sunak was branded as Dr. Death by one science advisor for his policy in the summer of 2020, encouraging Britons to eat at pubs and restaurants. Senior officials have repeatedly said the government was unprepared for the pandemic. More than 220,000 people died in Britain, and large sections of the economy were shut down. The inquiry is set to run until the summer of 2026.
Japanese Marines in amphibious assault vehicles stormed an island beach at the edge of the East China Sea on Sunday. It was a simulated attack to dislodge invaders from territory that Tokyo worries is vulnerable to attack from China. The goal was to show that if there is an emergency situation resulting from an attack against our country, Japan can maintain and improve joint operations under that scenario. General Yoshihide Yoshida, Chief of Staff of the Self-Defense Forces Joint Staff, was present to observe the drill. Now, the scope and pace of military exercises in Japan are likely to increase over the next few years, including with United States forces after Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in December unveiled the country's biggest military build-up since World War II with a pledge to double defense spending over 5 years. In Madrid, approximately 170,000 people marched against Spain's amnesty law, a concession made by Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. This is done to secure a 4-year term with the support of Catalan and Basque national parties. Protesters waving Spanish flags and carrying signs reading Sanchez traitor and don't sell Spain voiced concerns about the law's impact on the rule of law and separation of powers. Opposition leaders joined the rally organized by civil groups. Afterward, clashes between protesters and riot police ensued. Sanchez has defended the law, citing its potential to ease tensions in Catalonia despite public opposition. Taiwan's presidential frontrunner Lai Ching-te has chosen Hsiao Bi-khim as his running mate, who is a former envoy to the US widely known in Washington but denounced by Beijing as a separatist. Now Lai and Hsiao, both despised by China, face increased pressure as Taiwan asserts its sovereignty.
Taipei's former envoy to the United States has been named the vice presidential candidate for the upcoming election on Monday. Xiao Meiqing is a high-profile diplomat well known in Washington, but who Beijing denounces as a separatist. She will be running alongside Lai Ching-te, the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's presidential candidate.
I believe we have lots of common convictions. We are both willing to take on responsibility for Taiwan, with a common belief that Taiwan's democracy and freedom can last forever. That is our deepest connection.
The DPP champions Taiwan's separate identity from China, while the largest opposition party, the Kuomintang, traditionally favors close ties with Beijing. Lai has led in most opinion polls ahead of the election, which is taking place as Taiwan comes under increased pressure from China to accept its sovereignty claim. Xiao has been Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the United States since 2020. She has extensive connections in Washington. The Foreign Ministry accepted her resignation as U.S. envoy earlier on Monday. The United States, as with most countries, has no formal ties with Taiwan, but it's the island's most important international supporter and arms supplier. Like Lai, Xiao is despised by China, which has twice placed sanctions on her. China's foreign ministry declined to answer a question about Xiao, saying it was not a diplomatic issue. China's Taiwan Affairs Office on Wednesday referred to Lai and Xiao as an independence double act, adding that Taiwan's people were very clear about what their partnership meant for the situation in the Taiwan Strait. It did not elaborate. Lai dismissed China's comment.
China's thoughtless remarks on this election are sufficient to prove that China is intervening in this election, because none of the Chinese officials have gone through the baptism of democracy. So there is no reason for us to reply to these remarks.
Xiao was born in Japan to a Taiwanese father and American mother. Unusual in Taiwan, she uses an English spelling of her name based on its Taiwanese Hokkien pronunciation to underscore her identity as being Taiwanese and not Chinese.
Colombian singer Shakira reached a settlement on Monday to avoid a trial over charges of not paying 14.5 million euros in Spanish income tax between 2012 and 2014. In the deal, instead of jail time, the prosecution opted for fines, as mentioned by the judge in the trial's first hearing.
Colombian pop star Shakira reached a settlement with prosecutors on Monday to avoid a trial over charges she failed to pay 14.5 million euros in Spanish income tax. She argued it was triggered by personal reasons. As a part of the deal, she accepted the charges and a fine of 50% of the amount owed, which is more than 7.3 million euros. She also accepted another 438,000 euros fine to avoid a 3-year prison sentence. The pop star had previously vowed to fight what she called false accusations, but in a statement, she said she decided to prioritize her career and kids. One of Shakira's lawyers told reporters outside the courthouse the legal team was convinced it could prove Shakira's innocence, but that the circumstances had changed. The prosecutor's office was seeking up to 8 years in prison, as well as claiming back the taxes it says she owes. It alleged that between 2012 and 2014, Shakira spent more than half of each of the years in question in Spain and was therefore ordinarily resident in the country. It also said that a Barcelona property she bought in May 2012 served as a family home. The pop star, who recently won 2 Latin Grammy Awards, has a second tax fraud investigation pending with Spanish authorities.
General Motors' robo-taxi unit Cruise is experiencing a shake-up as CEO Kyle steps down from his position. This comes just a day after he issued an apology to the staff amid an ongoing safety review of the company's US fleet. Take a look.
The boss of General Motors' Cruise unit has quit amid questions over the safety of its robot taxis. Kyle Vogt said he had resigned in an email to staff seen by Reuters on Sunday. His exit comes after an October crash that saw a Cruise vehicle dragging along a pedestrian. The California Department of Motor Vehicles later ordered the firm to pull all its self-driving cars off state roads. It called Cruise vehicles a risk to the public and said the company had misrepresented the safety of its technology. Cruise did not initially disclose all video footage of the accident, which also involved another vehicle. It says it has since shown the complete video to regulators and provided them with a copy. The company is now conducting a full safety review of its vehicles and says it needs to win back public trust. A day before his resignation, Vogt had offered an apology. He said Saturday that he took responsibility for the company's plight. Vogt said Cruise needed to double down on safety and transparency. Cruise competes with Alphabet's Waymo and has been testing driverless cars in several US cities.
That's all all we have in this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. You have a blessed day ahead. This is me, Neha, signing off.